morning, welcome to another episode of FSD Doctor Talks. Healthy on the plate, chaotic for insulin. Foods that look good but spike your hormones. Let me start with something really simple. A food can look really healthy, it can sound healthy, it can be marketed as healthy, but still drive insulin in the wrong direction for you. Your body does not respond to branding, it responds to biology. And if you are dealing with insulin resistance, fatty liver, weight gain, diabetes, hypertension, you need to stop asking, is this healthy? And start asking, what does this do to my insulin? Because insulin is the real referee. And today we're going to talk about the foods that look good on the plate but behave very differently inside your bloodstream. Whole grain isn't a metabolic shield. Let's begin with the most protected food in modern nutrition, whole grain bread. Now let's be intellectually honest. Whole grain intake in population studies is associated with reduced cardiovascular risk. High fiber intake is associated with lower colorectal cancer risk. That evidence still exists. But here's the nuance nobody explains clearly. Whole grain bread is still primarily carbohydrate. A typical slice of white bread contains about 14 grams of carbohydrates. A slice of wholemeal bread, almost identical carbohydrate content. The difference is fiber. Fiber helps, but does not cancel the carbohydrate. Now I'll just repeat that. Fiber slows digestion, it does not neutralize glucose. For someone who's metabolically healthy, whole grains is perfectly reasonable. But for someone with insulin resistance, 2 slices of whole grain bread or toast is roughly 28 grams of starchy carbohydrate. And starch becomes glucose, and glucose drives insulin. Some whole grain breads have lower glycemic index, some don't. The processing matters. Finely milled wholemeal bread behaves much closer to white bread than people realize. Now, this is the line that I want you to remember. GI is speed, or glycemic index is speed. Carbohydrates are the dose. Insulin resistance cares about the dose. Whole grain bread is not a free pass. It's still a starch delivery system. Now, wraps aren't lighter, they're just flatter. Chia wraps, corn wraps, ancient grain wrap. People feel virtuous holding a wrap. Flip it over. Most wraps are predominantly wheat flour. One wrap often contains 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate, and that's before filling. Now look at the ingredient list from store-made wraps. Wheat flour, humectants, emulsifiers, stabilizers, raising agents, preservatives. If it stays soft for 3 weeks, it's engineered. You can make a wrap at home with flour and water. It won't look like that. Now, some tortillas test lower GI in certain labs, but again, GI is speed, carbs are the dose. Wraps are not metabolically lighter, they're just compressed bread. And if you are insulin resistant, one large wrap can behave like 2 slices of toast. Healthy perception does not change insulin physiology. Now, another topic. You can't outsmart insulin with lettuce. Let's address something else. The idea that certain sandwich chains are automatically healthy. A standard roll alone can contain about 35 grams of carbohydrate. That's just bread. Then come the sauces, processed meats, and then the sodium load. You can't outrun insulin with adding a little bit of lettuce. Adding salad to refined starch does not erase the starch. Convenience food is convenience. It's not a metabolic strategy. You can construct a better choice anywhere if you prioritize protein and minimize the refined starch. But the default build is bread heavy, sauce heavy, and carb heavy. A sandwich shop is not a metabolic intervention. It's a time-saving decision. They're not the same thing. Now, a bar with a gym font is still a bar. Now let's talk about snack bars. Muesli bars, granola bars, protein bars. They look athletic, they look outdoorsy, they look clean. Look at the structure. Grains, syrup binders, seed oils, flavorings, stabilizers. Some of them are actually reasonable. occasionally, but many are desserts with branding. Low protein relative to calories, moderate sugar, moderate fat, and low satiety. The glucose rises, insulin rises, and hunger returns. A muesli bar is often a biscuit with better marketing. Just remember, if it needs a wrapper to survive 6 months on the shelf, it's actually an engineered product. It's not a whole food. Some protein bars would be okay if they have more than 15 grams of protein and they don't have too much of sweetness. They are obviously an emergency choice when you cannot get access to a whole fruit protein source, but a muesli bar or a granola bar is definitely not a choice. The next topic is plain yogurt is food. Flavored yogurt is often dessert. Yogurt can be excellent. It's protein, it's calcium, it's got live cultures. Plain yogurt or Greek yogurt naturally contains lactose, about 4 to 7 grams per 100 grams. That's normal. Now, if you look at flavored yogurt, the sugar climbs, the fruit concentrates are processed and added. Then there's thickeners, there's stabilizers. Some small tubs contain multiple teaspoons of added sugar. At that point, you're not eating yogurt. You're just eating pudding with probiotics. If it tastes like a milkshake, it's not a health food. Read the ingredients. If the sugar is high, be cautious. Your pancreas doesn't care that it says Greek style. It cares about the glucose load. Now, chewing is a brake. Drinking is an accelerator. Juice. This one is emotionally protected. It's natural, it's fresh, it's fruit. When you juice fruit, you're removing most of the fiber matrix. Fiber is the one thing that slows glucose absorption. Chewing slows down intake. Liquid sugar absorbs quickly. Whole fruit is reasonable. Fruit juice, concentrated carbohydrate without a structural break. If you drink fruit, your blood sugar will believe you ate sugar. The metabolic response is different. Chewing is a brake. Drinking is an accelerator. Now, natural sugar still counts. Talk about honey. Honey is not toxic. Honey may have a slightly lower glycemic index than pure glucose. Honey contains trace antioxidants, but honey is predominantly sugar. If you add multiple teaspoons to tea because it feels healthier than sugar, you're still adding sugar. Natural sugar still counts. The dose matters. Metabolism does not care about the romance of the ingredient. Breakfast is setting your insulin tone for the day. Now, let's talk about products that are sold for breakfast. Instant oats, breakfast cereals, most are just processed grains. Processing increases the digestibility, but it also increases the glycemic response. Instant oats produce higher glucose response than less processed like steel cut varieties. The more processed the grain, the faster the rise of insulin. And most cereals are low protein, high carbohydrate, and therefore low satiety. And what happens by mid-morning? You're hungry again. Sweet breakfast sets up for a hungry day. Why does breakfast have to be sweet? Why not have eggs, chickpeas, plain Greek yogurt, leftover meat or fish from the previous night's dinner, tofu? Protein in the morning stabilizes appetite. It reduces grazing during the rest of the day. It improves satiety. Breakfast cereal is often a snack marketed as a meal. Now, I've come to learn over the years talking to patients that they use toast as a hunger solution. Toast is not a hunger solution. I see this all the time. I was hungry, so I had 2 slices of toast. If you have insulin resistance or fatty liver, that is not solving hunger. It's extending the glucose cycle. Fast starch, quick insulin rise, temporary satiety, and then the hunger returns. And just to go with that, butter is not the issue in reasonable amounts. The issue is using refined starch as a hunger extinguisher. Toast fixes hunger briefly, then it invites it back. Now, let's talk about the real shift. Stop asking, is this marketed as healthy? And start asking, what does this do to my insulin? Healthy appearance does not equal healthy hormone response. Your body does not read packaging. It reads macronutrients, it reads fiber, and it reads processing. And most importantly, it reads glucose load. If you are metabolically healthy, you have flexibility. If you are insulin resistant, you need a strategy to get out of this. Build your meals around protein, fiber, and minimally processed food. Be cautious of refined starch dressed up as wellness, because insulin is the real referee here. It doesn't care about fonts or colors on the packaging. Now, just to close it up here, this is not about creating fear with your pantry. It's about clarity. Whole grains definitely have benefits, and fiber definitely matters. Context matters more. If you have insulin resistance, you must personalize your carbohydrate exposure. Do not outsource your metabolic health to marketing. Remember, glycemic index is speed, glucose is the dose, and insulin resistance cares about the dose. And your pancreas does not negotiate with branding. I'll see you in the next episode of FSD Doctor Talks. Thank you very much.